Governments across Latin America are condemning Ecuador's police raid on the Mexican embassy. Mexico has severed diplomatic ties with Ecuador after the raid on Friday night, in which special forces detained former Vice President Jorge Glas. He has been arrested on corruption charges and had been in the Mexican embassy since December.
Ecuador's raid of Mexico's embassy has caused outrage. A growing list of countries have issued scathing rebukes. Protesters in Mexico took their fury to the streets.
A mixture of helplessness, anger, frustration, and above all, seeing that despite their efforts to keep people inside safe, they did not succeed.
Ecuador forces broke into the Mexican embassy on Friday night, arresting Ecuador's former Vice President Jorge Glas, who had been granted asylum there. Glas faces corruption charges and has been taken to a maximum security prison. The embassy has been closed after the raid, which Mexico says violates international law.
As per instructions of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, we are coordinating the return of all of our diplomatic staff in Ecuador, along with their families, after the violent attack carried out by Ecuadorian police in our embassy.
Ecuador is defending the arrest, which it says was due to the risk of imminent escape.
For Ecuador, no criminal can be considered a political refugee.
The UN is calling for calm over the escalating spat, urging both Ecuador and Mexico to show moderation and solve their differences through peaceful means.
For more, I'm joined now by DW reporter Arthur Sullivan. He's been following this story for us. So Arthur, why would Ecuador take such a drastic step?
Yeah, certainly a drastic step, David, but one that has been building towards this step over the last week in particular. So from Ecuador's perspective, this man, Jorge Glas, is a fugitive from justice, someone who they feel entirely justified to go after in this way. From Mexico's perspective, it's an egregious and outrageous breach of diplomatic norms, of what they say is the norm in international relations. But where has it come from? So it's been particularly building since December last year, when Jorge Glas, who was a long-serving left-wing politician in Ecuador under the former left-wing leader there, Rafael Correa. He would have been a very well-known politician there, but he was convicted on charges relating to corruption and then other charges relating to bribery, was sent to prison. But he was released from prison in November 2022, and then since last December, he was given refuge in Mexico and was there at the embassy. But for the last few months, Ecuador has been trying to get him back, and then things really took a turn in the last week when the left-wing populist leader of Mexico, commonly known as AMLO, Obrador, he questioned, first of all, Ecuador's recent presidential election, questioned its conservative strongman leader there, suggesting that the presidential election he won last year had been perhaps in some way tainted, also accusing issues around the murder of a candidate. And these kind of issues coming up, eventually then the Mexican ambassador was expelled, and it led to this incident then where the embassy was raided in an attempt to get him out of there. So that's what it's been building towards.
Right, so these tensions have been building up over the last days. How serious of a violation of international law is this, raiding another country's embassy?
It's very serious. So the 1961 Vienna Convention is the framework by which diplomatic relations between international states has been established. And it's a major international treaty of which these countries are signatories. And it states explicitly there that the diplomatic premises belonging to a country in another country are inviolable. They shouldn't be entered without the express permission of the head of mission. But that has obviously not happened here. Ecuador has gone into the Mexican embassy without any permission whatsoever, and so it is a very serious breach. And just to put it in context, this did used to happen a lot more in the 80s in Latin America, but there hasn't been any similar incidents over the last 40 years, and so it is a really serious escalation by Ecuador.
Arthur Sullivan, thanks so much for your insights.